Hello, Assalamu alaikum, good evening. Welcome to another episode of Health is Wealth. I am your host, Shabnam Riaz. The last program that we had was very well received and we had really great feedback on it. The topic that we were speaking about in the last episode that we aired was beauty, aesthetic beauty, the trends around the world, the power of beauty. What is it that sort of, pulls everyone towards it with a magnetic force? It doesn't have to be people, your environment, nature, so many things around you. There is a lure to being beautiful, to, seeing something that is beautiful. As the poet said, the thing of beauty is a joy forever. So, to harness that power, and everybody's right to want to look beautiful, and you can look beautiful in different ways. You don't have to have the standard norms. But, the topic itself is so interesting that people today, how much money and time are they investing in the beauty business? And what is there to offer? The myths and the facts, and what you should do and what you should be rather, wary of. So for all that, we have our expert who's in our studio again today. It's a pleasure to have Dr. Shahid Jamil, a cosmetic surgeon from Western Australia. We have 22 years of practice. And Dr. Shahid, thank you so much for joining us back in the studio.
Thank you again for having me. It's been a pleasure.
And we've had great feedback from the last show. So that's why we wanted to do, a follow-up as well. And we've had more questions from our viewers. So we thought we'd address that today.
I look forward to it.
Right. Okay, now, before we go on to the programme, tell us about your trip. You've had a recent trip to Skardu. And I mean, beauty, that is the personification of beauty. Tell us about the people there. Tell us about your adventure.
Shabnam, it was a bucket list of mine. It was a wish list. Then I'm slowly ticking that down. And the opportunity came up to be here, and I was so close to it. So I extended my stay by 2 days and took a flight there and a 4-hour drive from the Skardu airport into the regions around the area. And I was so fascinated to understand just how people lived such simple lives in such beautiful environments, crisp air, fresh oxygen, greenery, glacier with crystal waters. And the beauty
heavenly.
was just amazing. The beauty in Pakistan is so broad from the north to the south. And we have such a variety of looks and trends. And I was absolutely, I was speechless. We were in a group of international faculty of top-notch plastic surgeons from France, Italy, United States, United Kingdom and Spain. And I'll tell you, what we all saw, not just with our own eyes, but behind the camera lens, was phenomenal. And it's no wonder that some of our faces from Pakistan in those regions end up in the National Geographic and Time magazine as being just important faces. So I'm so proud to be part of that.
Oh, wonderful. And that is raw beauty, isn't it? That's just the essence, with untouched, unblemished.
It's how, the mighty Lord made it. And that's how it should be. It's natural against the backdrop of the most natural landscape you can have in the world. It was phenomenal. And certainly for us to reflect on, to know that we live in such a materialistic, artificial world, it reminds us to be natural in all our instincts and to keep everything in human proportion, because I think that that's so important.
To be grounded as well, isn't it? It's sort of it brings you back down to earth when you just look at all the simplicity.
Look, absolutely. These people live such beautiful lives in such simplicities, stones, houses, and fresh produce, no preservatives. And they live a very long life, above 100, and look after each other in a very, very nice way. And yet, the resources they have are so limited. So we've decided to create a charity foundation whilst we were there.
That's fantastic.
It was an instinctive thing. We just wanted to. We were playing cricket with the kids, and we decided what we'll do is once a year we'll travel around this time of the year and spend a week or two collecting important cases like cleft lips and cases that we can help and bring quality training for the local doctors, involve them in the region and upskill them and sort of give them a project to carry on with. So I think it's a good way to give back to the country that I belong to originally. So
that's wonderful. Excellent. Okay, so let's talk about genetics as well. Genetics plays a huge part in what you're carrying down from the generations and how your skin is going to play out, your hair and nails and everything. You see so many people. Okay, when we talk about beauty, and then let's talk about comparison. You get so many people looking at, another person and thinking, I want hair like that. How much of genes will determine how you're going to look like, and how much can you really alter things? How much can you be like the next person? Because we have a lot of comparison when it comes to beauty.
Look, as a medical doctor, one of the first things we do when we see a patient, whether it be in the beauty industry or the cardiology or neurology or any cancer industry, we ask a family history. It's a part of our makeup. It's part of our questionnaire. It's very important. Essentially, you are what you eat and what you come from. So the composition we have comes from our parents, the genetics, it's no doubt. So not only are we similar on the inside in terms of our ability to have cardiac disease, liver disease, propensity to cancers, genetic disorders that run in families.
Right.
We're also very similar on the outside. Skin and the looks are a very important organ. And it's for not just for our well-being, but it's for propagation of our generations, that we must look alike so that we can mate within and have recognition of origin. So it's so important to resemble our heritage, whether it be a nose or a chin or an eyebrow. So I think that's made for propagation of species.
Right.
So we can mate with likes and dislikes, and we can propagate in the right order.
Right.
Good
It's
genes
pretty
multiply.
Pretty basic stuff there.
Pretty basic stuff.
Yeah.
Kings married kings, queens, you know, were beautiful because they were beautiful people marrying beautiful people. So, so that trend still, to a large extent, carries in our society.
True.
But genetics plays a very important part. At the molecular level, there's a lot of studies done around global institutions, cutting edge things as to how we can keep that upregulated genetics to ensure our beauty is maintained. Sounds complex, but at the bottom of it, I think what you're asking is, yes, hair runs in the family, mothers, daughters, grandmothers, and good skin runs in the families. But you know, we strive to perfect it and enhance whatever we can.
Right. Okay.
But to a large extent, it's genetics.
It is. Right. Okay. So now let's talk about, you know, aging. With beauty being and how you look being so important nowadays, if we take it about 30 years back, people were sort of like more relaxed and more chill with how they were looking. Okay, they saw a few imperfections, they'd be okay, I can live with that. Now it bothers you. Now people are bothered. Now people want something different. And it all starts with a mindset, because you are going to behave depending on what's going on in there. So, you know, aging. Men, how they age, women, how they age. And why is it that wrinkles on a man will give him character, but wrinkles on a woman will give her a complex? What's going on?
That's so true. Look, men and women are two different animals. I mean, this has been the debate of centuries. And we behave differently, and we express through our faces different emotions and different missions in life. Men have to be a little aggressive because we're hunters and gatherers.
Right.
Women are placid and carers and nurturers. So as a man, we want to defy our territory to some extent. So some of those wrinkles, particularly one of aggression or ability to show aggression,
The frown.
no different to a lion who has frowns and deep burrows, you know, shows character. Whereas a woman has to be like the deer or the beautiful, soft mermaid, as you might say, always pleasant, shining, glowing. Okay. So I think men age differently in a different way. Their bone structure ages differently, and so do women. And you touched on the point of aging between men and women. It goes down to all the different layers of our face, from bone, working the way up to the skin. And I think what we have to address more in 2018 is ability to replenish those things that are being lost gradually over time, particularly bony structures, which are the foundations of our facial look. And as they age from osteoporosis and from hormonal adjustment, and women have that a little more rapidly after the age of 37 onwards, gradually starting then. I'm not saying at 37 it starts, but the bone loss starts to be more prominent, particularly around the eye sockets. We start to lose bone in the lower outer quadrants and upper inner quadrants. So the eye socket, which was once round, starts to become more oblong shaped.
Okay.
And thereby the tissues that are attached to it start to descend.
Okay.
And so we get things like tear troughs, dark circles appearing simply because of changes at the deeper levels. Our chins start to go back, so we start to show lines across here. And men can get away with it. We have little growths and we're supposed to be rugged. But with women, I think that those lines, once they apply makeup around, become more of a complex
More
with
prominent,
them. And as you mentioned, we live in a society in which social media, selfies, The phone provides you with a very good quality, but still...
I mean, sometimes it's ironic to think that, you know, you buy a phone with the least intent of picking up a call. It's, you know, what's the camera quality like? How am I going to look like in this picture?
That's so true. You know, we're all in that boat. And the phone companies have got switched on to having 2 cameras and 2 flashes. And I think they recognise that having a very small lens on a camera makes it very round, and it actually amplifies the image. So if we had a wrinkle, it would look bigger in a camera. And because we live in that selfie world to some extent, it exaggerates the things that we feel. So the pressures from the media, the pressures from the outside world, social influences, celebrities, I think are to a large extent governing the way we think. Perhaps that's less so in places like Skadu, maybe.
Yeah, that's true, that's true. Ignorance is bliss, you know, in some ways. Okay, so let's talk about, you know, facelifts, and now you have, you know, procedures that are sort of quicker and more accessible to people. What's going on there as well? Because the cosmetic industry surgery has changed as well. People are more pushed for time. People don't want to be sort of swaddled in bandages for a long time and recovering. So what's happening there?
I think that we've got better technology, and our skills have improved in understanding how tissues behave, and the recovery time involved, what we call the downtime. So I think we're able to do techniques to identify the real cause of where aging is and go in like surgical position and adjust that and come out quickly without too much trauma to surrounding tissues. And in the olden days, bigger facelifts, bigger skin tightening, bigger scars, obviously showed up on faces as a wind-washed look. But it was very obvious someone's had facelift, and doing things out of context of everything else around. So nowadays, when we do facelifts, we look at the neck as an entity, along with the eyes and the brows. And I think that looking at the overall look from every angle and addressing that is the key, rather than doing just the eyes or just the neck in isolation. I think that that's the key, because we age across the entire, from the neck upwards. And when people do things in isolation, that's when we start to see the done look.
That's very important, that point that you raised, and you raised this earlier as well, I remember, is that, you know, I asked you the question that sometimes you look at somebody and it's so obvious that they've had work done, whether it's Botox around the lips or something around the cheekbones. And you gave a very, very interesting answer, and please tell us what that is.
I think when we want to have something done, we want to make it look natural, of course. And we don't necessarily want to have it look artificial, at least most people don't. And I think in addressing that, we seem to have this trivial mindset that, well, we'll just do a little bit and hopefully it'll be all right. Perhaps it's some anxiety, perhaps it's some apprehension, perhaps it's dibbling your feet in the cosmetic realm of what's available to you. But an expert will always tell you, an expert globally will always tell you, address things globally. So when you look at the person, you look at the face, not just the eyes or the lips in out of context. And I think I mentioned to you the ability to triangulate or connect the eyes to the lips so that you smile from the eyes and the lips together and it looks genuine. And doing just the lips alone, like we see in a lot of the magazines and media, girls have these big lips, without addressing volume losses across the cheeks or making the glint back in the eye, can make the lips look pronounced and kind of a little done. I find if I want to make the eyes look beautiful without touching them, I always do the lips. And it just brings the glow back to the eyes. It's a secret I've always had. So adjusting...
Now everybody knows your secret.
so adjusting things away from the area of concern makes the viewer psychologically... make the viewer psychologically appear like... you know, the face looks refreshed. So that's the secret of having an expert deal with your face, understanding what needs to be done and where in order to create enhancement somewhere else, perhaps distant from where you're actually injecting or operating.
That's very intelligent. Okay, so for people in Pakistan, where, you know, you're a bit wary of getting work done, we do, you know, not many monitoring agencies here that can help you out if something goes wrong. No real cover. So what should they be wary of, and what should be the homework that they do before they go to get something done?
Look, the first thing I want to say is Pakistani is a beautiful people to start with. So we have this blessed genes, we have this blessed part of our culture that is beautiful. So we have an advantage in that sense, that we don't have to do some of the things perhaps some of the people outside have to do. You know, we don't spend as much time on the beach in the sun, we don't live as big an outdoor life, women at least. So we're blessed in that sense, our skin's good. But at the same time, I want to say that Pakistanis know what they want. They're intelligent, well-astute people who live in the modern age. The problem they have is, of course, access to expert treatment, which is financial and which is economics of the times. And good centres around the world that are doing research on cosmetics and have a good follow-up rate and doing audits on their work require more resources. And of course, we're learning from them. And that's the importance of having good people come back, contribute, and teach the local people here, and setting good foundations for correct work, the expertise. How do Pakistanis get away around that? Very simple. Don't fall for trivial specials and offers. Know the person doing your treatment. It's as important to know the artist as it is to know the paint, is one analogy I use. People ask about what product are you using, but how about which painter is doing the painting? That is equally important. We don't know which paint Picasso used or Leonardo da Vinci used for the Mona Lisa, but we definitely know the painting and we know the artist and we know what his mission or vision was for creating that beauty. So understand the artist, choose your artist carefully. And it doesn't have to be someone specifically from plastic surgery, dermatology, facial plastics, cosmetic surgery. Every specialty now in this modern age wants a share of that cosmetic pie. And I think we all share similar expertise and there's some overlap. But definitely know the individual rather than his background or her background of specialty.
And for them to, and for you to be comfortable with them, for them to understand exactly what you want.
I say treating someone is a two-way process. I want to know that the person feels comfortable with me and knows the skills I have, and to a large extent the expectations, the expectations I can meet. But at the same time, I also want to know, is this person realistic, and am I going to do something that I may regret, or I may not be able to explain to them properly because they don't have the mindset. So it's a two-way relationship. Of course. And doctors are always in this current age in the Western world wary of patients looking for opportunities to leverage across the doctors. So the doctors want to basically be comfortable because the relationship you form, not a temporary one, but hopefully a long-term one, because aging is a long-term process. So you want to see the patient again and continually build the stages of their treatment over the next years. So it's not a one-off treatment thing that I usually tell patients. So I want to be comfortable, that they have trust in me and that I'll build the stages as required. And I'm on their team. That's what I tell them. I'm on your team. So amazing. Let's have the frank discussion and please be open about the criticisms.
Right. Okay. So, you know, what about procedures that go wrong? And people that, you know, because when you're living in a part of the world where there are many cases when people are putting themselves across as experts, and they may not be. So what happens then? What is the redressal to cosmetic procedures that, you know, are a bit of a disaster? What can you do? What can be the damage control?
Firstly, we have to identify the definition of a disaster.
Okay.
And at what stage we're looking at the treatment. If we were to look at a perfectly qualified expert doing something and then the media taking a picture of that patient the next day, exposing to the public, is that disaster? Perhaps not. It's perhaps normal, controlled inflammation that we want in the patient, but it appears as a disaster. We're in the appearance industry, so how it appears may not be how it's going to end up if we wait.
It takes some time to settle down.
Absolutely, it's a living tissue.
How long does it, depending on
the procedure, how aggressive, and the more aggressive the procedure, the more the aim of rejuvenating the look of the face. So simpler procedures, simpler downtime. But your question as to disaster, then there are some very genuine disasters that also should be highlighted and brought to the attention of authorities as to, you know, the qualities or the qualifications of what we do to patients. And the regulatory bodies, as you mentioned earlier, there are regulatory bodies within every country, including Pakistan, that certify the skill set of doctors, and there's upkeep training, which we call it continuing medical profession.
That's a very important point.
And it's obligatory on our profession to continue to learn, to travel, to attend conferences from all over the world, to upkeep, because the shelf life of this cutting edge field is changing with machines, with newer studies on how they work. And, you know, often we go back to the basics because we learn that all these advancements aren't making a difference. There's an industry that goes with it. There's a commercial value to it, selling you a machine in your practice, selling you new products for your skincare. it's a global big industry. So we must be at the cutting edge science of what works and what delivers results, not mere promises.
As you said, it's a global industry and it's something that is accessible to many people now, as where it wasn't before, and many people are opening their minds towards it, because in a certain sort of 20, 30 years ago, you'd think of cosmetic surgery and you think of, okay, celebrities, models, whatever, they're getting work done and it's too expensive and how would I get something done? But now it seems to be more available to people, and
Yes.
more people they're less apprehensive about it. So there has been a trust deficit, has been sort of reduced,
Yes.
hasn't it?
Well, to a large extent, remember, all these cutting edge things start somewhere with the centers of excellence, and with time, other countries that have better cost advantages or lower labor rates or production facilities like Taiwan, China, Korea come into the industry.
Right.
And that lowers the cost to the consumer of these opportunities. Like Korea is at the forefront of cosmetic surgery and cosmetic products, creams. So inevitably, it's going to become more and more affordable.
Right.
What level of expertise are involved? Well, that's for the individual to assess and judge. And there's myriads number of things, and I never like to isolate any one country or any one person. You have to assess that particular individual, and of course, their aesthetic eye for detail is everything.
Right.
It's everything. A millimetre on the face is a kilometre in architecture, as I say.
Imagine.
It's critical. It's everything.
Imagine.
And of course, if I'm in China or Asia and other parts and I'm doing the same face every day, then I see a Caucasian or a Pakistani person, my imagination of what I would like to change in them will be different.
That's so
You
true.
may look a little Chinese.
Yeah.
And so we need to understand the artist's vision of what he perceives you to be,
Right.
not just the fact that he has an MBBS or a qualification in surgery. So I think that's important, that he understands different cultural aspects of beauty.
Right, that's very important. Okay, we have some questions from our viewers. Dr. Demina Rahman wants to know that non-invasive treatments using radio frequency, which need to be repeated, versus surgical procedures, is it worth the money? Would it be better to, spend more money on a surgical procedure or something else that is non-invasive?
It's an excellent question, firstly, and we're in a situation where we're having thrown at us many different options by doctors. Practices have machines in them because nurses or their juniors can run the machines. To a large extent, the more aggressive lasers, for example, you'd need a good expert to do that because you can do some damage. Now, the question of energy device machines or radio frequencies and ultrasound, these are coming at the forefront of cosmetic practices because they are able to deliver heat to deeper tissues that can realign your collagen. Okay, so we'll talk about collagen for 30 seconds because a facelift, for example, a surgery, doesn't address the quality of the skin. A lift surgery, it's just a nip and tuck to a large extent.
Right.
Unless you do fat grafting or other procedures adjunct to the surgery. Surgery also doesn't address necessarily volume that need to come forward in the face, like chins and the maxillary antrum, that are becoming devoid because of what we talked about earlier, bone loss. So good surgical procedures should involve adjusting the proportions deeper on the bone before we lift and tuck and make our incisions behind the ears and into the hairline. Now, machines like radiofrequencies are able to tighten tissues around the neck. So for people who don't want a surgical scar, men with short hair is in trend around the world,
Right.
they don't want a telltale sign of a scar in front of the ears. They don't want that stigma. So we use machines to tighten tissues, to build collagen, and we call it collagen banking. Does it help?
Collagen banking.
Does it
Okay,
help?
interesting.
Absolutely. Now, will you see it straight away? May not see it straight away. Does it bank? Are you putting more value in that bank? I think so. And if you follow your patients up over 1, 2, 3 years, yes, you start to see results. Amazing results. But that requires dedication and patience on the part of the patient and having faith in the treatment and not questioning every aspect of it. Financial costs, I think it all adds up. We're in a world where there's multimodality to treatments. Start with simple.
Start with simple.
Start
And
with
that is a
simple.
really good tip. For people who are watching the program and they're sort of overwhelmed with cosmetic surgery and all that is out there to offer, this is really important advice. Start with simple.
Start with simple. Keep it simple. Keep it clean. If that's all you need, then that makes a person happy. It gets the best return on
It's
investment.
confidence building as well for the
Confidence
patient and the doctor, isn't it? Baby steps.
I'm not the best swimmer, but I'm definitely not swimming in the deepest ocean, perhaps looking for the most amazing view of the fishes. I'm starting at the smallest puddle, tiptoeing my way in, and that's just how we are as humans. We don't want change. We don't want too much change because our ancestry says we belong to a certain origin and we must retain it. I don't need to change everything. I might want to just look a little younger at times.
True. Okay. Anything that you know, is there anything that you think that is a consistent thought that comes to your mind when you see patients and people coming to you with the same demands over and over again? Is there something that you think, you know, as not just as a cosmetic surgeon, but as a human being, you know, well, you know, I wish people were more contented with. You may see somebody and you think, they look wonderful. Are there any thoughts like that?
Look, Shabnam, I have a background, although I started my career in plastics reconstructive and I had a lot of training around the world. At a point in my life, I hanged up my gloves in cosmetics. I also did some minimally invasive, and I went to a more aggressive form of surgery. I did kids cardiothoracic surgery for 4 years at Princess Margaret Hospital as a fellow, and that was a very eye-opening thing for me, along with vascular training with the College of Surgeons. So for me, I did things like that mattered, where life and death mattered. I had babies in my hands that we created heart surgery on, and where every suture mattered. Now, why do I say this? Now, reflecting that, if things went wrong there, it was a life and death decision, and it was critical. Okay, you needed to have steady hands, steady precision. Translate that to a lady that might come in and say, I've got a few wrinkles. If you don't fix it, doctor, my life's going to be upside down. And I appreciate that, and that's true. It may be for that person in their world. But I sit back at that moment and I say, listen,
perspectives.
Crystallize what you have in front of you. Understand that we can improve things. We can't eradicate these things. And I think there's a little hand holding and there's a little understanding and listening to the patients. When you have an open ear and you listen to their concerns, more often than not the patient reflects, walks away. And I think they have more realistic expectations. Those wrinkles are not as important as perhaps other things in life. But, you know, we run a cosmetic practice and they're there for that, so we should help them with that.
And then, of course, you know, there's going to become a time in your life where you just cannot fight them. I mean, they're going to come somewhere. I mean, a face without wrinkles at all is sort of a bit robotic, isn't it?
Very much so, Shabnam. Most of our pictures that we took in Skadu and those areas involved men, elders from the villages with beautiful wrinkles. We were astonished by the grace with which those wrinkles came across the face. It was a sign of them smiling, because the more you smile, the more wrinkles you get. It's the movement above the skin. So therefore, I've got a very good, great, happy life. And what do we do with Botox? Let's be honest. We stop the muscles from working. In areas we want to refresh the skin above.
We'll come back to Botox and, you know, the ins and outs and the details before that. We have to go for a break right now, but don't change the channel. Okay, welcome back to the programme. We, having a fantastic chat with Dr. Shahid Jamil, who is, very kindly joined us all the way from Australia. And it's fantastic speaking to you, Dr. Shahid, because you've brought us into these sort of insights and the nitty-gritty about the cosmetic industry and, what's really going on and what things people can... What you said, I think, was so important. Keep it simple. Start with simple. And then see how you're comfortable and then, work that way as well. We were speaking about Botox. You have earned the nickname of King of Botox. Tell us about that.
I mean, so that name was, it's obviously media, like yourself, has sensationalised it to some extent, but to a large extent, I do a lot of Botox, but it's never in isolation. Mm-hmm. Botox and other treatments are like a thread and a needle. They only work with combination of each other in total natural outcomes. People who just want one, like Botox on its own, because they feel it's trivially easy and it's cheaper, and not do the other things like replenishing with fillers or fat grafts or surgical treatments or the machines as we mentioned earlier, are kind of kidding themselves to a large extent. To a large extent, if you do over Botox, it looks funny, and you lose the tissue volume from atrophy, because if you're not moving the muscle, it thins out. And so
how long does that muscle remain frozen?
The company says 3 months. Botox is a brand, but it's actually botulinum toxin, I should probably say at this point, and there are different brands that go with it. So it paralyzes the muscle for about 3 to 6 months, but the aesthetic effects can be longer.
Okay.
So yeah, I use that as about 5% of my practice, but it's combined with other things, and that's the key to understanding that you can combine machines, radio frequency machines, heat machines, skin peels, correct topical creams that are broadly distributed in the market nowadays, along with some simpler surgery or more complex if you need, to get an overall balanced appearance. So no one really knows what you've had done. It could be a combination of different things, and that's the way we're moving forward. Multimodality, natural results, undetectable, refreshing, elegant, subtle.
Subtle.
That's the key.
That is.
Subtle. And never forget that initial aim. Patients might ask you for one thing, but look at the face as a whole. And
how often has that happened to you when you've had a patient coming in with sort of demands that would not look good on her or him? And then how do you counsel them? What happens?
I think the novice nature of the industry, with so many people, players in the industry, and there's certainly an economic gain for them, and they enter the industry for that reason, or the lifestyle choices they make. And I think as you become more senior and more experienced, you choose to refrain from being bullied by the patient into doing things.
Right.
And I think you have to make a very scientific call that will benefit the patient in the long term. While patients might seek something that their friends have had or that they've seen on Google or on the media or on Instagram or Facebook, I think it's important you give your expertise on how things would suit that patient better and leave it with the patient to think about and give them informed consent of all the pros and cons of the things they want and the other things that they should perhaps have in order to go with the things they want, in combination as we call it, so that treatment that they so want, maybe a bigger lips or beautiful eyes, should sit balanced on the face and doesn't jut out, it doesn't look out of proportion. So an understanding a good proportion,
very important,
aesthetic ideals of beauty, as we say. You might consider this to be a timeless look. Is so important to have, rather than trying to do something that won't suit that face or that character.
Very, very important. Okay. As you mentioned, paediatric surgeon as well. So totally different fields, and they're very interesting and sort of fascinating to think that, you're doing that with that. So steady hands, I mean, that must be the most important thing at all. As you said, a suture that makes such a difference. So tell us about that.
Look, when I was 13, I should say this, my ambition was to be a cosmetic surgeon, to deal with beauty.
Right.
And it started back then. So I had scholarships in art and sculpting back when I was in high school in Perth, and with exhibitions in the art gallery. So for me, that was the basis of everything, whether I saw beauty in nature or in art or in beautiful cars or beautiful bottles of perfumes or beautiful clothes, beautiful women, beautiful men. For me, having beauty all around was important, and it was just my knack. Now, transcend that when you enter medical school, you become a doctor and you have a bigger ethos to save lives.
Right.
And during your medical career, you see and are exposed to so much pathology, so much disease, that you want to help these people. They're already beautiful, but they've got this cancer or they've got this cardiac issue. And when I saw, so my training with the Royal College of Surgeons started in vascular training as advanced training. And I kind of branched off a little bit because I thought I wanted to do some more than just beautiful faces. And I joined that under a very competitive process. I did 3-4 years of doing some very complex surgery and being trained by the best of the best in the world. And I knew there that I was missing the beauty side of the world.
Right.
But then from there I transcended and I thought, well, we'll take it to the next step. And I was offered the opportunity to work as a fellow in cardiothoracics, children's heart surgery in Perth at the best institution we have. And my experience there was momentary for about 6 months to get some skill set that I wanted. But it lasted 4 years because I was enjoying it so much.
Right.
And I was asked to stay on. And it was probably a very important part of my career in understanding how human life crystallizes right in front of us.
Right.
But of course, I was always at the back of my mind doing cosmetics and carrying on a career in cosmetics. And yes, I had 2 very parallel careers, 2 very different careers, but I certainly enjoyed every part of being able to help someone who themselves couldn't make decisions.
Right.
Babies with diseases to the heart. And I think that was a beautiful feeling to see the siblings light up when the babies were well.
Right.
So coming back to cosmetics as a full-time profession now, I never forget those beautiful moments and with dealing with the kids.
Of course, and for you that must have been such soulful moments. I mean, when you, as you just described it, one can only imagine to have the life of a tiny baby in your hands. It would be at the same time such a challenge, but then so humbling as well, and a lot of contentment, I would think.
Yeah, it makes you a more grounded person, and I think you understand what really matters in life more. And when you go home, you know that what you've done is help someone, not just the baby, but the entire family and the extended family. And to see that baby grow over years, the year coming back for follow-up, or 2 years later or 3 years later, it's so beautiful because they've changed and they've moved on. Now they're playing with different toys and they're talking about different things and they have different friends. So I think it's such a human thing, and that's at the core of everything we do as doctors, help people. But so I never forget those moments. And you know, outside of cosmetic surgery, we as doctors still help people doing, you know, I came back and did a voluntary stint in Pakistan about 7 years ago.
Fantastic.
Assisted with the kids' cardiac surgery unit in Lahore, and it was an excellent experience for me. I learnt a lot.
That's fantastic, amazing. Okay, what about people with addictions to? I mean, you can be addicted to anything, can't you? Really, beauty, of course. As we said in the program that we taped before, it is addictive. So, how can you? What psychological evaluation do you have done to make sure somebody's not getting addicted to cosmetic procedures?
It's the responsibility of the physician, surgeon, to evaluate the person and know that they're in the right place and space in life. So a good thorough history starts with understanding the history of the patient in the background. Do you have any depression? Do you have any anxieties? Are there any hiccups in life? Are there shortfalls that you're dealing with that you think you will compensate with beauty? And I think that we think beauty will solve these problems. It doesn't. It helps, but it doesn't. I'm not going to say that it doesn't help. It does help, because I've seen those changes. It certainly boosts your self-confidence. But it might be 5 or 10%, but 10% could be critical at a time when you're just on the edge. So we look at things like body image dysmorphia as a disorder, where we so much fixate on certain things. And it could be part of some other disorder that stems out. It could be part of a obsessive compulsive. Certain patients have anxiety and they have anorexia because they
How many times have you had to sort of refer a patient to other help as well?
Look, I haven't had to. Often we get patients that come in with those things.
Okay.
I do suggest to them that they should seek counselling, and you know, by choosing not to do certain things over the top, I think I'm being responsible in how I treat these patients.
Of course.
And I think as doctors, we should never forget that at the end of the day, it's easy to do things to these patients that are demanding things, but we have to carry that torch for responsibility, and as leaders in that profession, I think it's so important to have the ethics involved around the industry. And you know, when there's financial gain, we lose the ethics, unfortunately, and that's...
To keep that balance is so important, as you said, to be grounded.
And it's so important as doctors that we constantly remind ourselves that it's so important to be ethical and honourable with how you go about doing things.
Yeah, that is really important. Okay. Last time as well, you know, I said I'd talk about this and we ran out of time. Men and the cosmetic market, because I've got to be fair, I've got to give them you know.
Give us a fair chance.
Yes, exactly.
Look, I
What's
gave a
happening?
talk in Islamabad last week on lips. And I started the talk by saying women have the advantage to have lipstick, foundation, and they can have beautiful lips surrounded by different colours. I mean, look at the lipstick choice.
Yeah.
It has a million colours to fancy whatever taste, mood you're in. Men, what do we have? We got nothing. We have a little bit of beard growth, but we all need rejuvenation.
Right.
We lose lip volume, and you know, when women kiss with their lips in the Western world, they're only kissing a man, we hope, most of the time. So it's a two-way thing. And I think it's important to understand that men's lips are important, like women's. And men's cosmetic rejuvenation is currently the single fastest growing industry within medicine.
Really?
It's not the biggest, it's the fastest growing, because the trend for men to have rejuvenation is phenomenal. They have excess income in certain parts of the world. You know, they're professionals and they want to look young, they want to look relaxed, they don't want to look stressed because it has a financial outcome. If I'm a CEO of a company, if I'm a director and I want that portfolio to sell my shares and bring in investors, I want to exude not only confidence in my product, but also the fact that I'm doing this in a relaxed way and that I know what I'm doing. If I look stressed, I don't think many people would want to put their money behind my interests in my company.
So image is everything, isn't it?
Image is so
I mean,
commercial.
before you open your mouth, you're sitting in front of someone and you just sent so many messages. That's what's really going on, isn't it?
It's going on. And in my industry, in my practice, I'm seeing more and more executive clients, more and more corporate heads that want to exude and show a sense of relaxation. You know, top owners of companies don't wear suits and ties to their meetings. They're more relaxed because they're going to show a lifestyle of confidence, of success. It doesn't come with strain on your face. You might do the strain behind the scenes. It's always hard work, but you want to exude that to the public as being a very calm, relaxed space that you do, and you want people to be part of that journey.
Yeah,
so
they want them to connect. So beauty and looking good, and it's not just feeling good, is it? It's about giving a message to other people as well and making them, I don't know, trust you more or be more comfortable with you. This is quite intriguing, isn't it? Okay, now let's talk about weight loss and what that does to, you know, as you're talking about the face, and when you're losing weight from the face as well, along with body weight, what happens? What are the differences? What should you be, you know, careful?
Right. So ultimately, I think we want to lose weight for a number of reasons. We want to look aesthetically beautiful. We want to be healthy. We're not carrying excess weight. So our heart's not straining as much, pushing the extra blood around, the whole extra amount of fat and tissues. And it's, you know, less weight on our joints means our joints last longer.
Absolutely.
Orthopedically, we're better functionally. We're running faster. We're able to move and exercise our cardiovascular system to a point where we're healthier on the inside. How does that affect the outside? Generally, I find, and I sponsor a lot of gyms and companies that are involved with the image industry, I find that people who go to the gym look more strained because those extra sets of lifting weights, for men particularly, they strip the layer off the fat from their face as well. And I think our understanding of how fat across different layers of the face works now is far better than it was 10, 15 years ago.
Okay.
We're able to differentiate between superficial fat pads under the eyes, across our temples, across our forehead, around the mouth, that start to be shaved off slowly. And some fat pads go quicker than others. So in differentiating the change of fat pads, we'll see that the support structures underneath our face that hold and plump the tissues are starting to fall back.
Right.
So it's inevitable that the envelope, the skin, will fall down and follow those contours.
Right.
And so with it, it will start to create shadows and valleys, which we register as aging, tear troughs, dark circles, nasolabial lines, smile lines.
So how do you
crow's
counter
feet.
that? How do you counter that?
So I particularly assess the patient in all angles and ask a thorough history. Are you losing more weight? Have you got a metabolic rate higher? Are you sitting in a Vikram sauna? Are you trying to burn fat? Have you had procedures? Are you eating a different diet? Understanding the cause of the weight loss is important. But then to actually fix it, you must identify where the losses are. So I go back and replace the deeper tissues and build up layers accordingly. You don't just build a fat layer without addressing the bone, because that layer will just float and give you an overdone look. You want to look thin on the face, but plump enough to look young and healthy.
Right.
You don't want excess product just to plump it out because you've lost fat across the rest of the body.
Absolutely.
That's the disaster we have when we have chipmunk cheeks, trout pout lips, And all those disasters you see on magazine, people do injudicious filling of the face without sculpting the face.
Well, you know what you're saying is just so important. The whole merging in of everything, blending in on a face, and that is the best effect, exactly as you have said. Unfortunately, we've run out of time, and as usual, so many things I had written down that I wanted to talk about. We haven't been able to get to them, but it's been wonderful having you back on the show. And just before we wind up, a quick message to our viewers.
Thank you for having me in Pakistan. It's been absolutely fantastic. I've been so welcomed here. I've loved every minute. Thank you for the organisations that have been involved in having me here. I've enjoyed every minute of meeting people. The Pakistani doctors are talented and they have so much passion to learn, and we're here to teach them. And I hope the industry heads in the right direction with its ups and downs. But if we aim to give good excellence in what we do, our patients and our general community of Pakistanis can benefit from that without having to travel abroad all the time or to feel that it's out of their reach. I think it's in everyone's reach. Just be selective, keep it simple, and at the end of the day, you are beautiful either way. So,
wonderful. That is fantastic message. Thank you very much, Dr. Shahid.
It's been my pleasure. Thank you, Shabnam.
Okay, and with that we come to the end of today's programme. Fantastic discussion there, many things that we've been able to learn from our expert, Dr. Shahid Jamil. And I think the best thing that I've come away with from today's programme is the simplicity. Start with simple and keep it simple, and that will keep you happy, and baby steps rest of the way. Okay, until next week, stay happy, stay healthy, bye-bye.